point of view.
Okay, so the first thing that I would say is that when they argue morality, you should not argue policy. You will always lose. Morality always beats policy. It's why Republicans lose. Right? When they argue that it's immoral for you not to be nicer to the poor, and you argue, yes, but your policies are ineffective. Okay, immoral beats ineffective in an argument any day. So when it comes to purely moral issues, social issues like abortion, to get more specific, the reality is that abortion is not a complex issue. It's a very simple issue. That's either a life or it isn't. It's that simple. If it's a life, you can't kill it. If it's not a life, you can do whatever you want. It's a kidney, right? So, and then it becomes, okay, so how do we define life? And the answer to me is you define life by the same way that you would define life if you found it on Mars, right? If you found a single-celled organism on Mars, it's a life, right? I know, as somebody who has one baby and another on the way, that what's in there is not a random piece of tissue. At the very least, even if you don't believe it's a life yet, it's certainly a potential human life. And that seems to be more valuable than your convenience. And there's something nasty and cruel and degrading about the idea that you get to decide whether something is a life or not based on whether it's convenient to you or because it's in your body. By the way, this is exactly, it truly is amazing, actually, how history repeats itself. The argument in favor of abortion is exactly the same as the argument in favor of slavery. Exactly the same, right? You're on my land. I get to decide. It's up to me to decide whether you're a person or property. It's up to me, right? What are you going to say? It's on my land. What are you going to do about it? So when you have women who say it's in my womb, I get to decide based on what I feel today. I look into my heart, and I decide whether this is a child or not. Well, it turns out that in human history, there's a long and inglorious chain of people who said, I get to decide whether this person is a person or not, and it never ends with anything but mass death. So if you want to be that person who says, okay, that's not a human, I'm just going to flush it down the toilet because it's personal convenience, you can always tell, by the way, who is losing an argument by who's using the euphemisms. When it comes to abortion, the left uses nothing but euphemisms. Abortion, terminate the pregnancy, pro-choice. They never say, oh no, what I would really prefer to do is go in there with some steel instruments, cut that baby apart and suck its brain into a sink. Right? For some odd reason, they don't like talking like that. I can't imagine why. So, I've never been a fan of pussyfooting around this particular issue. I think that it would be well worthwhile for whoever the Republican nominee is. One won't do it, but it would be nice if somebody would go onto a stage with Hillary Clinton and say, your stated position is that this child, then reach into his breast pocket and pull out a picture of a child at 30 weeks and say that this child can be murdered at the whim of the mother. This is your stated position. You believe that this is not a human, right? This is a piece of flesh. It's a piece of random flesh. This makes you a bad person, right? It does. It makes you a bad person. My wife's 30 weeks pregnant right now. That baby's kicking the hell out of her. I promise you, that ain't a random piece of flesh in there. That's my child and it's her child. And anybody who says differently ought to be caned. It's disgusting. And just to clarify for the Donald Trump voters, that's not literal. People shouldn't actually be caned for their opinions.
Is this on? I'm Mackenzie, and I go to Carpenter High School. And I often get asked questions about abortion all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's really difficult for me to come back with, my answer. And people always ask, well, what if the woman is raped? What do you do? What would you say in that case?
Yeah, so what I always say with regard to rape, for example, is that if a woman is raped, we should find her rapist, we should track him down, and we should kill him, right? Or castrate him. These are my two options. Pick one. Whichever one you please, right? Either one of those is okay. Also, it's bad to kill babies. That's my answer. They're completely unrelated. The two topics are completely unrelated. The source of the pregnancy and whether that's a human life in there are two completely unrelated topics, right? It's a very difficult emotional issue, which is why my personal view of abortion is that when the mother's life is in danger, then abortion is appropriate. That's my exception. Not the health of the mother, the life of the mother. And for me, that includes suicidality, for example. So if a woman is suicidal and she's going to kill herself because she doesn't want to bear this child, then abortion is appropriate. But other than that, these are two separate issues, right? Because rape is wrong, and so is killing babies, it turns out. Two things can both be wrong. They're not equally wrong. In fact, it depends which way you view it. But the fact is that what they want to do is they also, let's be real about this, what the left wants to do is pick the outlier and then use it to justify all the rest of the abortions. Okay, 99% of the abortions in this country have nothing to do with rape. Nothing to do with rape. They have to do with people having irresponsible sex. They have to do with convenience. They have to do with age. They have to do with they don't like whether it's a boy or a girl. So what they like to do is they like to take the one outlier case and the one that tugs at the heartstrings, and then say, well, let's just make abortion legal in all circumstances based on that. How about this? I'll make an agreement with the left. Let's outlaw all rape except for rape. Now, are they happy? Of course not. Right? Of course not, because they're not really talking about rape. They're talking about how they want all abortions to be legal, and they're using a marginal example as the rule in order to make sure that abortion is legal across. You should say that to them. If they say rape, you should say, listen, how about this? We'll make a deal. All the rapes, all of the pregnancies that do not spring from rape must be carried through to term. Now, are you happy? They won't be happy, I promise you. And that's how you expose them. That's how you say, well, then it really isn't about the rape, is it? You're just using that as an excuse.